Good morning. My name is Gray Wonderly. I live in Marble Mount, and I want to thank you for allowing me to express my concerns over Initiative 1639 and how it affects the citizens of Skagit County. Myself, I took the same oath you did. I did 20 years in the military, and that oath never expires. So, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, is the first part of that oath. And why is that important? The oath is prioritized. Supporting and defending the Constitution is priority one. This means the primary duty of law enforcement, military, and elected officials is to enhance the ability of the individual citizen to freely exercise his or her rights as enumerated to the people, and to never use their position to restrict the free exercise of those enumerated rights. Unfortunately, 1639 does exactly that. It violates both the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the Washington State Constitution under Article 24. How, you may ask? Believe me, I get that a lot. First, it creates a class of weapons not even recognized by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and then forbids the sale of them to law-abiding citizens aged 18 to 20. This is a blatant violation of the 14th Amendment, which states, no state may inhibit or infringe upon the rights and freedoms granted by the Constitution. Then it charges an extra fee to purchase these weapons. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that no state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee thereof in Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. As you can see, 1639 does exactly that, violates that ruling as well. Next, it requires purchasers to waive HIPAA rights. In other words, give up one right to exercise a constitutionally protected right, a right that shall not be infringed, as the U.S. Constitution states, and shall not be impaired, as Washington State Constitution states.
Okay, Mr. Wonderly, that's your 2 minutes. And for the record, Linda, will you just note that he distributed a document called the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance that he wanted the commissioners to consider at a future date. So that's what's in the record.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Dan O'Donnell, 328 North 3rd of LaConner, Washington. I'm here to seek your help today in changing the law. I wrote to Dave Paul, the representative for our district, and requested a change to the RCW so that we get rid of the, the shift of taxes. And I asked Ron Wesson to talk to Dave Paul last week, but he was too busy. Dave Paul was too busy. And so I'd like to leave this with you in my letter to Dave Paul. I think that the shift of taxes affects everybody in Skagit County. I know it's only $17.21, but nevertheless, that is not necessary. And especially in view of the fact that the Swinomish tribe contributes to the schools. In that case, they're double dipping. They're taking the taxes that are shifted, and then they're also getting the stipend from the district. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Christopher Rainey. I'm a Cedar Woolley resident, and I have been for 13 years. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy, a father of 3 children, a husband, and I'm the Zone 1 leader for Washington 3%, a nonprofit organization, and I oversee Skagit County. Before you is an ordinance that will keep Skagit County in line with the state and U.S. Constitution as far as certain rights go. And I would like to start with a definition from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Impaired. It's an adjective. Being in an imperfect or weakened state of condition, such as diminished in function or ability. The Washington State Constitution, Article 1, Section 24, the right to bear arms, The right to the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired, but nothing in this section shall be construed as authorizing individuals or corporations to organize, maintain, or employ an armed body of men. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Our state government doesn't think so. Initiative 1639 flat out strips these rights that are endowed upon us at our birth by our Creator from 18 to 20-year-old adults. Adults, they can vote, they can serve in the military, but now they're, limited on what types of firearms they can purchase or own for their own protection or protection of our state. There are numerous bills in our state legislature that will not only impair our civil rights, but flat out strip them from large groups of adults. House Bill 1346 is a bill that will make it illegal for adults under 21 to purchase or receive ammunition containing lead. This will effectively ban youth hunting or even taking firearms safety courses. Initiative 1639, it creates so many different things that aren't even written out yet. You can't even take a firearm safety course that will appease the 1639 regulations because they haven't said what has to be in it yet. But all these laws are going to be in effect in July. So these initiatives and bills are more than an impairment on our constitutionally guaranteed rights. They're a flat-out attack on our rights. I please urge you to read the ordinance before you and pass it to keep Skagit County in line with our state and U.S. Constitution. There are several counties that have already passed this bill, including Cowlitz County, the first.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Josh Vonek, Cedar Woolley. I'm going to continue where Mr. Wonderly left off there. It also violates U.S. law in another way by creating a registry which was outlawed in the Firearms Owners Protection Act of 1986, commonly known as FOPA. This act made it illegal for the federal or any state to keep a database or registry directly tying a firearm to its owner. And for the record, I'm a federally licensed firearms dealer. So every time I sell a handgun to any one of you, I have to fill out a state transfer form. I have to send it to the chief law enforcement officer in your jurisdiction, be it your sheriff or your city police chief. And that goes also to the State Department of Licensing. So we're already creating that database that's illegal to do so because the state picks and chooses what's legal and what's not. The firearms in question, semi-automatics, are protected by the Second Amendment, and according to the U.S. Supreme Court, who ruled in the Heller versus D.C. case that weapons in common use are allowed for individual possession, the AR-15 is the most popular rifle sold in the United States today. Therefore, it is common use. The 30-round magazine is the standard magazine for the AR-15. It is not a high-capacity magazine. Prior to the Heller case in Staples versus the U.S., the Supreme Court ruled that semi-automatic rifles are common. Additionally,
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear? I guess you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Tina Champeau Wallner. I'm 1641 State Route 9, Cedar Woolley. And I just want to say that I am in full support of the United States Constitution and the Second Amendment rights that we have under that Constitution. I'm opposed to 1639, which takes away our Second Amendment rights. And I am for the document that I know that you'll receive from Mr. Wonderly, and I'm hoping that you will sign that document. To that, I would like to add something. My source is Wikipedia, and I'd like to read this to you. Jury nullification is a concept where members of a trial jury find a defendant not guilty if they do not support a government's law, do not believe it is constitutional or humane, or do not support a possible punishment for breaking the law. This may happen in both civil and criminal trials. We, the people, are the jury in this matter, and we do not support this law, do not believe it is constitutional, and do not support possible punishment for breaking this law. We are asking the commissioners to stand with us in opposition to this patently unconstitutional piece of legislation whose only purpose is to strip citizens of the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Clearly, this cannot stand a legal challenge, and it would be a great injustice to punishment of any Skagit County citizen based upon this unconstitutional law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm back. Connie Muncy. I now reside at 2610 East Section Street in Mount Vernon. I, too, support the resolution or ordinance submitted by Mr. Wunderlich. On a number of occasions in this chamber or in one-on-one conversations I've had with each of you, I often hear rationale for your decisions or lack of action based on limitations imposed by the state or federal governments as a reason why you cannot act on behalf of your constituents. If there was ever a time a limitation applied for taking this action, this is it. The Constitution of the United States does limit what any government can do to its citizens. The I-1639 initiative flies in the face of our Constitution. Sadly, the Constitution is not taught in most law schools. I interviewed a local attorney recently, and he said he took a course called the Constitution, but the very thick textbook in class study was all about cases that mostly argued with it. He recalls that they were not even required to read it. Is it any wonder that even without the possibility of being bought and paid for by special interests, that our state Supreme Court rules as it does? Yes, that same Supreme Court who has ruled to deny water to Skagit rural residents. Commissioners, how much more damage can Skagit County take at the behest of our higher powers? What will they do to us if you take a stand with us on this ordinance? Take away our right to life? They've already denied water. Same thing. Going to take away our money? Well, a continued devaluation of our properties. They've already done that. So we elected you to represent us, and I know these folks and a majority of the Skagitonians who soundly defeated the recent county charter amendment will have your back if you stand with us in supporting this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning. Bill Velasich, Grip Road, Cedar Woolley. Concur in total with the ordinance before you. The people that brought 1639 forward wanted to do so to stem gun violence. There is no gun violence. A gun is an inanimate object. It can cause no violence. The violence is caused by the man behind the gun. Most of the recent mass shootings have had a cause in recidivism, in some lack of a law that's already on the books. It's time after time when you see what the person happened. The latest one, he purchased a weapon when he was a felon. Then when he went to get the CWP, it was found out that he shouldn't have the weapon. They didn't go back and take the weapon from him, though they should have. It's a failure of our existing laws. I don't want to, it saddens me to see laws that come closer to making me be the bad guy. I guarantee you I'm not the bad guy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Billy Sevieri. I reside in Oak Harbor, Washington, and I am picking off where those two gentlemen over there left off. Additionally, in the Donald versus Chicago, the Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment rights were incorporated in the 14th Amendment as well. Again, I emphasize that the U.S. Constitution and Supreme Court law of the land, second to it here in Washington, is our own state constitutional. I have also demonstrated that I-1639 violates both the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and Article 24 of our own Washington State Constitution, both of which are quoted are in the proposal before you. 1637 and violating the other federal law, FWPA. Therefore, I urge you, as elected officials, to uphold your oath to the U.S. Constitution and to the Washington State Constitution, and by not allowing 1 penny of county money to be sent by any county agency to enforce any law that violates both the constitutions and existing federal law. Finally, I quote you, any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. Marbury versus Madison, U.S. Supreme Court. Therefore, I urge you to adopt the ordinance before you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Catherine Iverson. I'm a resident of Marysville, but I was born and raised in Anacortes, and my minor children still reside there, 30th Street. I'm here to speak today to ask you to adopt this ordinance against the 1639 law and join the other counties who have said they won't enforce the law because it is unconstitutional. Now, it's unconstitutional for state and federal, and I think that's already been well demonstrated by all the speakers here today. And I'm just here to tell my story. I am a 31-year-old woman who at the age of 18 survived domestic violence. You put this law into effect, my daughter, when she's 18, if she's in that situation, she won't be able to protect herself. And you bet I can't afford to have her living when she's going to have to go out on her own when she's 18. She's going to have to be an independent person. She's going to be an adult. And if you allow laws like this to be enforced, you are telling our children that when they become adults, they don't have the right to protect themselves. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And it's not the direction that we should be taking our county. Additionally, I'd like to speak and say that the additional financial requirements in order to exercise your Second Amendment rights clearly target those who are of less money. Let me tell you, I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm actually a felon. I have spent thousands of dollars and gone to court in 2 different states to stand here before you, a legal gun owner. The FBI to this day doesn't have my record updated on their end. Is it because I haven't sent them the documents? No, it's because they're not processing the documents. So while the state of Washington has said that they will, allow my rights to be had, they've issued me my concealed permit, I still have issues at the federal level because none of these agencies talk to each other. None of them share information correctly. And what you're proposing to do is to create a system where if someone is told no, wrongly, they're told no. How do they fix that? What do they have to do? What are the hoops they have to jump through? How expensive is it going to be?
Okay.
And when me, the poor person with the 3 kids in her house wants to have the ability to protect themselves, they should be able to do that. They shouldn't have to go out of their way. It's unconstitutional, but it's also unfair to real people.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson. All right. Come on up.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is George Wallner. I live Highway 9, north of Cedar Woolley, about 9 miles. And from a common sense standpoint, I'm against the 1639 ruling, and for the simple reason that we have many predators and we have livestock on our small farm. One of the things that happened, and it was documented in North Bend, that a bicyclist was trying to outrun a mountain lion and he got taken and his partner escaped. And it was a fatal incident. We have bear on our property, we have mountain lion, we have coyotes, mink, you name it. We have all the predators indigenous to this area. And but I'm waiting for the grizzlies to come too, but that's another thing. Anyway, for that reason, I like to be able to grab a handgun or my rifle or whatever to protect my livestock and myself, and most of the time my wife. And
Okay, you're done.
No, so the whole point is the government would love, some of the politicians would love to have more and more people dependent on the government. And what they're doing is displacing independence that is actually scriptural, that the Lord wants us to be independent and responsible for our actions. But if everybody depended on the government, everybody can say, I don't have to have any responsibility. The government does everything for me. And how do you subsist in that situation as an independent person? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did Tina drive you here, George? I'm not sure. You might need a ride. Anybody offer George a ride home?
Okay. Is there anyone else? Last chance on that podium. Well, thank you very much for coming. I'd always rather spend a Tuesday to listen to what people have to say than to be staring at a room full of empty chairs. So thank you for taking your time to do that. We get it. Commissioners, do you have any announcements or comments?
Thank you very much for coming in. Definitely appreciate what you've done. This initiative that went forward from the voters of the state of Washington, the county here, about 53% voted in favor of the initiative. And like you mentioned, or some people mentioned, there will be probably some lawsuits going on to make sure to see what happened on it. The sheriff and our form of government, the sheriff is the one and the prosecutor are the ones that deal with this issue. And so that's the issue with 1639. The homeless situation, the county is helping to fund with Friendship House and our health department on situations going on there. And because of the Mount Vernon's rules, they're looking at trying to extend it past the 120 days, but that's up to the city of Mount Vernon, so that's what we're doing there. So thank you for coming in.
Well, if you follow 1639, it's going to be so expensive to the county, you won't be able to help the homeless. The cost of
please, let's call this to order, please. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Dahlstedt.
On the housing, we had people come last week that were homeless, and I made it clear that I will support them in trying to get the city to extend a period of time, because we need at least another 30 to 45 days, and it's impossible for the county to go try to find another location. And I think we've spent it's been quite a few $1,000s, I think $80,000 trying to help. So we're going to continue doing this. And I was contacted by 2 of the city council members saying maybe they can find a way to give us an extension. So I will be meeting with them and hoping, again, we got to work together, because you can't be putting people out in the cold. And we also heard the story about the fellow that had been released from the hospital. So we're going to do everything we can, and we're trying to find a way to get a shelter, find more of a long-term solution. Snohomish County and Whatcom County both have missions. They have Lighthouse Mission in Whatcom, and I'm not sure which one it is down in Snohomish, but they're in the county seats. And Mount Vernon's the county seat. So, you got to have it where the services are and where it makes the most sense. We can't have one everywhere, and so we're going to work hard on it. And, a lot of those people aren't out there because they, have just been lazy and not interested. A lot of bad things happen, and it's very difficult to find places for people to live here when there aren't enough apartments or affordable places. And safety is a big deal for everybody, too. People want to be safe, protect themselves. So thank you.
So on the 1639, I just want to just make a couple of comments. First of all, the lane of travel is always something that we have to be a little bit careful of, and so I will certainly take the ordinance that was proposed here and review it in-house. I just had a chance to briefly read it before the session started. As I shared with Mr. Wonderly earlier, I have a concealed pistol license through the city of Cedar-Woolley, and I see it more as a mental health stress relief thing, because there's nothing more satisfying to me than seeing a Diet Coke can jumping up, down the road. And but I know that a lot of people don't think that is an appropriate weekend activity. I also know that in the Cedar-Woolley Rotary Club, one of the live auction items that was very popular, now that we're being told by a prosecutor we can't even do it, was to have a lady's pistol, or we do a gun training session. They called it the zombie apocalypse. I was trying not to say that on camera, but I couldn't think of another name. Chief Lynn Tucker named it the zombie apocalypse. We take, families out and do gun safety overview. They get to fire a number of different weapons, and now with those rules, you can't do that, or we're told that you can't do that. And so when you've got, so I think there's a number of unintended consequences coming right down to the who's going to pay for all those background checks. And, they say they're going to have a database. Is the database legal? And will they even have a way to maintain, that the law-abiding citizens, the ones who are trying to do it right, would be in that database? And would you even know where those other weapons are? So I just want to say that I get it. I'm not exactly sure where the Board of County Commissioners' role is in all this. I will look to the other counties that you say that have passed it, but I'm not guaranteeing anything from this bench. In fact, I think it will be a stretch for this bench to intervene in something that's probably going to go up through the federal court system. But I'm glad that you came and and shared your passion and made people aware, because there's a lot of complacency, I think, is the world. People just don't care. They don't know, and they don't care. And we've got to at least get them to be thoughtful about whatever position they take. So,
yeah, and
I wasn't threatening you.
No, well, see, I'm always careful not to make her mad because I know she can carry a gun. So I'm pretty careful. But, the thing is, we have an elected sheriff, and the sheriff determines. We don't have the authority to tell the sheriff what to do at all. We certainly talk to him. We're always trying to work together. Same way with the prosecuting attorney. We want to work with him, but we don't have the authority to tell him, you're going to do this. And so anything that we would consider with the ordinance would go to the prosecuting attorney's office, and then they would review it from a legal perspective and give us guidance back. But I know it's a big deal. I go down to Olympia every 2 weeks now. We're talking about all these things, and it's a huge, impossible mission that has been created. And I think the intentions were okay, but it's just, I don't know how it possibly can even work. It's just, it makes criminals out of all the innocent people too. So it's a huge challenge, but we understand, and we are going to try to work on it.
Okay. With that, it is 12:05, and we stand adjourned.